What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I am Melinda J, and I'm here to bring you another review or commentary on the recent documentary of Janet Jackson. I know everybody has done their fair share, and you're getting tired of watching the reviews, the repetitiveness, and stuff like that. However, I looked at it from a different point of view. I know that everybody was expecting the for her to release all the good tea and stuff like that. Things that we as a collective already know about or had some form of communication about. Um, but however, I looked at it as a self-discovery documentary other than, her dishing out the good, the bad, well, dishing out the tea and disposing it and stuff like that. And I believe that is truly because she had control. She had some control, if not full control, of having her story being told from her perspective, and from her point of view. So I'm going to click over here. Oh yeah, I do see as of probably like 5 days ago, at least a week, as of last week, as I was watching the other premiere of another docu series, My Killer Body with K Michelle. I had seen a snippet commercial of this particular documentary. Janet's documentary had scored over 15.7 million viewers that tuned in and watched the docu-series about the pop star as of last month. And that was between Lifetime and A&E. So if you wasn't able to watch it on Lifetime, A&E was also another outlet to see the documentary. So I'm scrolling through my notes as well as on the website, and I'm just going to, say what is on the website from mylifetime.com about the show. So a good synopsis, the summary of the show was the 4-hour event in celebration of the 40th anniversary of Janet's first album, Janet Jackson, 1982, is the simulcast on Lifetime and A&E, two of the flagship channels of the A&E network's portfolio. With full unprecedented access to the global icon, Janet Jackson is an intimate, honest, unfiltered look at her untold story. Producers Workbee have been filming the incredible documentary for over 3 years and were granted exclusive access to archival footage and Janet's never before seen home videos, along with star-studded interviews. This will be definitive story of Janet Jackson, one of the best-selling and highest-earning artists in music history. Janet has enjoyed immense levels of success, experienced incredible tragedy, and endured tumultuous private life in the face of extraordinary public scrutiny. With no stone left unturned, Janet Jackson lifts the lid over her private life for her very first time and reveals some of her most intimate moments ever caught on camera. So, yes, I watched it live just like everyone else did. And of course, I got my Twitter fingers up to work. Check it out. Go, feel free to follow me on Twitter. It is at Miss J to you on Twitter. But with that being said, I got some notes because, like I said before, it seems like to me this was more like a self-discovery documentary more than like giving you extra tea of what the public already knew. And I believe that's what the misconception, as I've watched all the other YouTubers and their points of views and their commentary on this documentary is that they was wanting more tea about it. Like, tell us a tea that we already don't know or that you can dismantle. In my point of view, it was more like a self-discovery documentary because, as she stated before, that majority of her life she didn't have control, due to the fact that, there was already you do as you're told mentality when it comes to your parents. So with that, with her having control after the age of 18, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to her getting married, because she just stated the only way to get out of control of her father was to get married. That's when she was able to, do what she wanted to do in her own time, in her own way, creatively. And as an artist, you don't want to be tied into a box all the time. You want to be able to expand your horizons. And that's what I think a lot of industries have a hard time doing, is that it's a whole cookie cutter process that, okay, we see this characteristic of you, we're going to put you over here. But however, it doesn't leave you no wiggle room to be able to expand your mind and be creative as possible, because we are all creative beings in our own way. So in the first part of the documentary, and yes, I'm gonna do two parts of this because, as I stated before, when it comes to my content, I like to research and not only put my 2 cents on the stuff that I research, but I also like to have my notes written out. That way, won't, if I'm going off subject, I can revert back to my script to get on subject, because I am a complex, critical thinker. And so, yeah, we're just going to go right into it. Because I'm already rambling out of control already. All right. So, in part one, it is more, to me, the overall theme of part one, it was more like a humble beginnings, because of the fact that they went into detail on the family dynamics. I'll tell you the highlight points that, in my point of view, that I've gotten for the first part. So the first part that I learned from this and my take on it were family dynamics, discipline, as well as travel, work ethics. The civil rights movement it was like a little snippet part of that portion, and self identity, freedom and creativity, body physique, there we go, and substance abuse, marriage, and confidence. So those are the main pointers that I've gotten from that documentary on the first part. So the family dynamics, okay, humble beginnings, Gary, Indiana, all the kids were born there. The house was 670 square footage, y'all. 2 bedroom, living room, small kitchen. That is basically a sugar shack, y'all. And that's basically a sugar shack. And that's, in today's terms, a efficiency studio apartment. Okay. Because back then, as they said before, the place seemed so big to them because they were little kids. And, of course, America was still in those transitional movements at the time because, of course, civil rights. All right. But however, hello, for a family of 9, and you have 2 parents, a 2 parent household. So that was good. They were in a 2 parent household. Mom worked at Sears, dad worked at a steel mill, and I know it says on the website that they followed her for 3 years, but on the documentary in the beginning, they stated it was a length of 5 years. So they may have extended it due to the fact that previously it was for tour purposes of celebrating her 40th anniversary of an album. But now, since the pandemic has started, it had, I guess they had pressed forward or made some adjustments to be like, okay, let's make this more than what make this more of an anniversary. Let's reflect. Let's um become aware, because as I've stated plenty of times before, especially on my podcast, 2020 was the year of a reset, for people to reflect, because everything was happening and still happening at warp speed, and people was always on the go, moving fast in a timely manner, no breaks and stuff like that. And 2020 was a universal break, for everyone to gather their thoughts and really figure out what do they really want in life. Do they want to stay in the path that they've been comfortable with for so long, or step out on faith and do what they feel their hearts desire? Okay. So yeah, so the the length was extended to 5 years, instead of 3 years, compared on the website. It said 5 years on the documentary. So um I'm assuming they made some adjustments, be like, okay, let's extend this, um for, reflection purposes, because it is monumental, especially at the age where she's at and the standpoint that she is at, far as like her being a mother and her enjoying that, which I will get into later on. And she is a Virgo. Okay, so Virgos, they're very perfectionist, and they like, they're very analytical, they're logical as well beings, because my father is a Virgo and my brother is a Virgo. So you can imagine. And I can get down with the Virgos because, as I've stated before, I'm a critical and analytical thinker. So the conversations, they get deep, all right? Janet is the youngest out of the family, which I did not know that. I thought she was like middle child, but she's the youngest. And her and Randy and Michael, they call themselves the Three Amigos, which I thought that was so cute. And even though they had a small house, they did make the most out of it, which a lot of people take advantage of nowadays. And one highlight that was very touching, besides her enjoying being a mother, is the mural of her brothers at their hometown, of all of them looking up except for Michael. And that was very touching, because whenever people get rich, um and they move out of their hometowns and stuff, a lot of times they don't come back to the hometown because of the conditions, either the conditions that they grew up, that just makes them not want to go back, or it's just, I don't know. It's just whenever you made it out, you don't want to go back. I guess it's part of, you know, whenever you're going through your self-discovery journey, is almost like addressing a wound. So you want to go into that lightly, so you can be able to heal and, be able to become a better person after that. So, yeah, I thought that was very interesting. The two-parent household, both parents was working. The oldest, and usually when there are a lot of kids and the two parents are working, majority of the time the oldest is the caretaker until the parents come back home and continue on with the family festivities. And one thing Joe Jackson had instilled in his kids was not only discipline, but he was doing whatever was necessary so the kids would not lack the basic necessities, which is food, shelter, clothing, love, and being loved and cared for, because of the environment that they were growing up around. The M word per capita was high at the time, and I have not looked it up. I have not looked up the M word per capita now when it comes to that particular situation. But then it was very detrimental, and due to the fact that he not only seen a lot of people close to him either went to jail or has passed away due to unforeseen circumstances, um, that gave him the drive to be able to um, do whatever was necessary for his kids to not lack. And that's one thing I do appreciate, that because nowadays people are living in an individualistic society, and that's not the case. Especially now, that is definitely not the case. It's a difference between being selfish and having compassion behind it. Okay, is definitely a difference. Now the discipline, um one thing that point out to me when Janet had said discipline without love is tyranny. And tyrants, they were not. They loved us and wanted us to be the best that they can possibly be. Okay, discipline. The dad being the disciplinary, I say the strict one. Mother was disciplinary as well, from my understanding, but it wasn't to the extent as the father. And this was because the kids thought he was strict, and they were always asked the question, why is he so strict? And when that question pops up in my head of why the person is so strict, you have to also look back further on his quest to adulthood and see why, he is the person that he is. Of course, he has wiggle room to change, but at a certain point, whenever you get at a certain age, there's no turning back. You cannot necessarily change that person unless the person is willing to change. And that was due to the fact that he has seen so many people go to jail or being taken away from their loved ones. And he tried to do anything and everything to keep his kids out of the street. And once he figured, once Tito had Tito had was playing his dad's guitar while he was at work, and then one day he came home and one of the chords was broken. So he was about, I can imagine he was about to get tag team for doing that, because back then when one get tag team, everybody get tag team. So instead of that happening, from my understanding, because I wasn't there at the time, Mother Catherine, she was like, hold up. He can play. And no tea, no shade, but he can play better than you. So he was like, okay, let me listen. And so after he was listening to what Tito was playing, he was like, okay, bet, this is our ticket out. And just like people look for sports for a ticket way out, music was their ticket way out. The mother had discovered it amongst her kids, and the father was the person to act upon the discovering part. So you cannot, so only imagine that. Only imagine what transitions had taken place. And one thing Mother Catherine did point out, that each time she would always encourage him to expand the house because they were obviously outgrowing it. But at the same time, it was like, no, we're going to take whatever money that we making and we're going to reinvest in this equipment, whether it's instruments, microphones, sound systems, all that, just so we can get our kids prepped and ready so we can move out whenever the time is right. All right. So that's what I got from the discipline part. Now on the traveling part, of course, from Gary, Indiana to Encino, California. Totally different scenery. I've never been to California, but I'm pretty sure California is just as a melting pot as everywhere else. Excuse me. So, Encino, California, that's I'm assuming the outskirts of Los Angeles area, where they moved from a 670 square foot home to a house on 3 acres. So imagine the big difference. You have palm trees, everywhere. You have year-round sun. You're near water now that you could go to the beach and play around in the sand. Um, the kids they were not used to the luxury life until they got into Los Angeles. Um, and with kids not being experienced for as travel wise, um, when they've been in a city for so long that doesn't have those aesthetics, and they move out to another city or state, or even if they travel to another city and state, of course they're going to be buck wild because they've been used to being outside in a front lawn, maybe riding their bikes up and down the street, or playing basketball right around the corner at a local basketball court. And now they're adjusting to year-round sun, palm trees, beach, um, wearing shorts, everything. So that's why that is important. It's important now for kids to be able to travel outside their hometown, even if it's just 30 minutes or a couple hours outside the city where you're living at or the state, because that it just helps expand the kid's mind, that not only anything is possible, but there's more to where you've been used to living at. Okay. They were also the first black family in the neighborhood, and the kids and not only that, the kids and the teacher at their school was touching their hair and rubbing their skin to see if it came off. And of course, you have to keep in mind that was the civil rights movement where there was pressures of being black in America and trying to be an abiding citizen, on top of, trying to stay afloat, trying to live. I'm almost like the circumstances that we're living now, low key. Stop it. Don't play. Don't act like we're not, repeating history because of people not willing to change. But of course, you can't change people unless they are willing and ready to want change. Um, so yes, I thought that was interesting. And I know when my family moved to South Texas, um, we it was almost like a culture shock because it was majority Latinos, Latinas, Hispanics there. So it was a mixture of all the Spanish race there. Spanish race, Hispanics, Latinos, Latinas, you name it, they were all there. And my son, he can pass as a Latino. However, he is not Latino. He is black. And that's because he has curly red hair. So it was people were amazed there that, black kids can be light skinned with curly red hair. I mean, but hey, everybody is learning. Okay, on to the work ethic. So work ethic. One thing that the parents did establish well with these kids is their work ethic. Um, um, with them being kid stars, the parental figure is basically the representative, the manager of their kids, and with them being working kids, uh, that doesn't leave room for a normal childhood, as far as playing with kids and um, getting into social clubs and so forth, so on. So I think that is one thing that they I wouldn't say regret fully, but just have a little taste of, because they were working every day, night and day. So I can only imagine. But if they did, however, that is one thing they did point out. If they hadn't have those certain work ethics then, they probably wouldn't be in the place that they're in now. So they just they just are grateful for anything and everything that they have, because once you look back at your life of all your accomplishments and endeavors, you just be like, wow, we did it. And there is no way that this would have been possible if this hadn't happened. So take your lessons with your blessings, okay? Now, during the civil rights, I'm just going to touch up on this piece because it was just really a touch up piece. But however, even though the pressures of being black in America was happening then, of the citizens, trying, was just being abiding citizens, and everybody had their different political views as well as racial views. However, music was the one avenue that brought everyone together, and that was what the Jackson kids did just that. So, as I've said many times before when I'm interacting with people, that music not and food is the soul. It feeds the soul. Literally, it feeds the soul. You just imagine elderly, if they're sick or if someone is sick, sometimes the voice of someone or a favorite song or their favorite food that they used to grow up or they cook, that can cheer someone up. All right, that can bring life back into the soul, because that is something that was embedded in their brain early on, that made them feel comfort. Okay, so yes, music makes the people come together, in the words of Madonna. Okay. Self identity. So Janet asked the question, where do I fit in? And that was because she grew up with a big family with a lot of siblings. And not only with that, but their family was a very notable family, expecting a lot of each other, as well as the last name, but, well, the association with the last name. So there were things that she wasn't asked to do, but she was put into it. I did catch that when she stated that she wasn't asked to do things, but she was just put into it because, of course, she was a valuable asset. She was another valuable asset to add to the family brand. So I thought that was interesting, especially when it came to her wanting to go to school for business and law. And her father was like, no, you're going to sing. And that was and that was after he found out that she could sing real good, just by her playing with some beats in the studio. So the talent, yes, I've already explained that before. The mother recognized it, but the father took action to make it a reality. She also made their uniforms whenever they go on tour. I thought that was cool. Um, and child abuse. Oh yeah, when Janet had played Penny on Good Times, that was she was playing the role of an abused child as Penny. So those were the times where the network was addressing issues amongst America, that was happening, if to households who was experiencing that at the time, and the outlets that could happen if that case would have happened. So I thought that was interesting. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she was put into that scenario. I don't think she wanted to go for that role, um, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. All right, on to the freedom and creativity part. She wanted to go to college. Yes, here we go. She wanted to go to college to study business and law, but her father wanted her to sing, because of the fact that, of course, she was playing around with some beats, and somehow her father found out that she was able to sing, because I'm assuming he was like, who was that singing? And the person was like, that's Janet, that she did that. And so, and also the fact that the brothers had fired him around that time. So as his direction was not on them anymore, he redirected his energy to her. Now that that was another member in the family that was going to bring another stream of income. So her first album, she didn't want her last name on it because of the fact that she wanted her own sense of identity and to remove the association with her brothers being famous already. And plus, she didn't have as much creative control with the prior with those two albums, with those first couple of albums, because of the fact of the matter. Of course, it tends to happen when you begin as an artist. If you don't run yourself independently, the creative control, that can be a straight up bummer when it comes to, you really want to sing, but you don't have the creativity to put whatever um ideas that comes to mind into the work of art that you're creating. So prior to control, that's not gonna fly with an artist. I cannot say this enough. Artists are not made to be put in a box. They are meant to do whatever their hearts desire. And if you take that away from them, that can lead to a path of destruction, whether you like it or not. I also find it interesting that the kids called their fathers Joseph. I found that quite interesting. Um, I have to go a little bit further on why they called their father Joseph, but I thought that was interesting because as Janet was coming to the scene, let's see, I was not even thought of at the time. I was not even thought of at the time. However, I'm lucky enough that I was able to grow up within the time period when she was in her prime. So yeah. Body physique. Now, during that period of time, everyone was in shape back then. There was hardly any plastic surgery needed during that time period. And if somebody did get plastic surgery then, it was because of an unforeseen circumstances. It wasn't as accessible as it is today, if you get my drift. Okay, so I thought that was interesting too, because I know for sure back then the physique on people's bodies were there wasn't as much obesity and so forth and so on back then. However, um now it's very accessible to get plastic surgery, and I will address that in another video with My Killer Body with K Michelle, because that show right there, it's very eye-opening. On to substance abuse. David Bowie offering the kids some substance, and thank God they didn't, and they declined it because whoo, I caught that too. If you caught that, comment down below if you caught that. Cause I was like, really now? Really? That really teed me off there. But whew, oh my goodness. But thank God they declined that. Also, Janet stating that she tends to attract partners with substance abuse. Um, that to me is martyr syndrome, wanting to save people from hitting rock bottom, and that's breaking giving and receiving 101. And I'll talk about that in my podcast, Miss Unconventional Podcast. I do talk about that, giving and receiving, and that's due to that. And I'm glad she brought this up, that it stems from her being controlled majority of her life, and due to the fact that she is naturally a giving person. She had to learn that, everybody cannot be saved. And it takes someone to be like, hey, I want to change for the better, to be able to help them out. So I thought that was interesting. And that can stem from the subconscious as well. Always wanting to save people from hitting rock bottom. That can definitely, that's a subconscious thing. And it can possibly a childhood memory type of thing. But I'm glad she was able to bring that up and be able to process it enough to be aware that she, and to also stop herself from attracting those type of people, because yeah, that could be detrimental. Also, marriage was her escape to a certain extent, to get control of her life and find herself. And that happened a lot back then too. Marrying somebody to escape of someone controlling them. Yeah, that happened a lot too. So I can see why she did that in that circumstance. Because in order for her to get or have her own identity, she would have to get from under her father, um, which was by marriage. Because when you marry off, of course, the father has to release control to the partner that the daughter is marrying, because now the man that the daughter is marrying is head of household. Now she can only look to her father as um, a counselor, a counselor, or someone to fall back on and advice from, excuse me, and of course he's her father. So now that she's married to someone else, um, the boundaries. She had to set boundaries. That was part of setting boundaries, was to get married. And also to gain control too. And lastly, confidence. Now, the time has come when she is getting to that groove of getting her um, coming out of her shell, getting out of her comfort zone. So the Control album, where she was working with Terry and Jimmy Jam, legendary producers, hands down, um, and working with Paula Abdul, and she was the choreographer for the Lakers, cheer, as well as, yeah, she was a choreographer, and she helped with the choreography with the Control album. Um, And one thing that Paula Abdul had brought up, as well as Janet did as well, was she was naturally a shy person. Janet, she was a naturally shy person, and she was coming to her adulthood while getting into this album. So Paula, with her doing choreography, of course, dance is another form of creativity, and it's universal as well, whether you know it or not. Um, it was, it helped to get her out of her comfort zone, and it helped her gain her confidence as well, because Michael would always tell Janet, uh, always practice, never give up, and to have self-confidence. And in order to deliver what you have created, you have to not only practice for it, but you have to believe it and have that confidence. Be like, yeah, I am that girl, and this is what is happening, and this is what I'm doing. And it's either you like it or you don't like it. And fortunately, that Control album is the start of her career, where it skyrockets, and it is definitely making a name for herself individually. So, um, that is all that I have gotten from um, the first part of the documentary. So, of course, I'm going to make part two of of my reviews, and my take on the second part of the documentary. And comment down below on some pointer things that I haven't came across that you came across and was like, did you peep this? So yeah, comment down below your favorite part of the series, even though everybody was like, it was sort of not giving what it's supposed to give, but whenever you look at it from a different point of view, it have you thinking, and also it will have you looking from like, okay, look what's happened then and look what's happening now. So and it also gives you a little wiggle room to self-reflect as well, just as much as she did. So yeah, that's all I have. Feel free to comment down below of what you think about the documentary, and also like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I had some good numbers on the cheer video, and I only had 2 likes from there. So I need you all to like this video, and so I can get in the algorithm too. Okay, my life matters as well. I'm kidding. So with that being said, yes, I'll see you all in part 2, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.